You were never in the will, Emily. You should stop embarrassing yourself. My cousin Madison's voice echoed across the oak-paneled room like a slap. We were in my grandmother's living room, her favorite lace curtains still fluttering in the summer breeze, the scent of magnolia clinging to everything. Her memorial had ended just hours ago, and already the vultures had gathered. I stood there, still in black, staring at the smug faces of people who once called me family. My hands trembled, but not with sadness. No, that emotion had already been drained from me. What simmered now was disbelief, and something colder. They had read the will without me. Behind closed doors. No call. No warning. They thought I was out of the picture. They thought wrong. I smiled. Just slightly. Because I had a secret of my own. I wasn't born into power. I earned every inch of it. One sleepless night at a time. Growing up in Savannah meant living in a world where everyone knew your business before you did. The town was beautiful. Charm oozed from the cobbled streets and Spanish moss. But beneath the pleasantries, people picked favorites early. In our family, it was clear who wore the crown. My cousin Madison. Blonde, poised, polished from the cradle. She could do no wrong, even when she did everything wrong. And then there was me, Emily. Dark-haired, bookish, always with a pen or notepad. I was the serious one, the quiet one, the one who helped clean the dishes while Madison got praised for showing up in a new dress. But there was one person who saw me. My grandmother, Eleanor Parker. Gran was the heartbeat of our family. She raised me when my parents' marriage imploded, and my mother moved to Atlanta. Gran kept me in Savannah, in the house with the peach shutters and wild rose garden. She told me stories of strength, about our family women who held things together while men chased illusions. She taught me how to read body language, how to listen to what wasn't being said. But most of all, she taught me about dignity. You don't ever let them decide who you are, Em. You show them. She supported me through everything, college, law school, and the hell that came with being the only woman in the room at my first law job. When I wanted to quit after a partner humiliated me in front of a client, it was Gran who told me, you don't need to raise your voice to command a room. Make them lean in. So I stayed. I worked long nights, built cases like puzzles, and started my own practice by 30. It wasn't big, but it was mine. Parker and Wynn Legal, a small but mighty firm housed inside a repurposed bakery 2 blocks from River Street. Gran called it my quiet rebellion. She would bring me her pecan pie and sit in the client chairs, pretending to be a high-maintenance customer. This coffee's cold, she'd joke, waving a plastic spoon. I'm billing you for the complaint. I'd grin back. We had each other, and I always thought that meant something. But the rest of the family? Not so much. Madison, her brother Chase, and their mother Aunt Lorraine, they tolerated me. I was Emmy to them, said with just enough sweetness to hide the bite. At family gatherings, they'd corner Gran and guilt-trip her. Why does Emily get special treatment? She's always working. Or worse. You know she'll put you in a home once she starts making real money. Gran brushed it off, but I saw the toll. Still, she never changed her tune. She's different, Gran told me once, referring to Madison. She needs to be liked. You need to be respected. I never asked Gran what was in her will. I didn't care. I had my own path. But I did believe she would be fair. I was wrong. When Gran fell ill 6 months ago, it was sudden. A stroke. The kind that steals language and time. I was out of town on a pro bono case in North Carolina when it happened. By the time I got back, the house was swarming with relatives. Madison rearranging furniture like it was hers, Chase snooping through drawers under the guise of cleaning. Gran couldn't speak by then, but she squeezed my hand so tight I thought it would break. Her eyes, wide and sharp, stared into mine with urgency. I knew what she was trying to say. They were planning something, and they were doing it fast. 2 weeks later, she was gone. The day of the funeral, I noticed the glances. The rushed phone calls. Madison and Chase whispering in corners. When I asked about the will, they acted confused. We're grieving, Emily, Madison said, her mascara too perfect for someone mourning. Can't this wait? But then I heard from Ruth, Gran's longtime housekeeper. She leaned in while clearing dishes that night and said, "They had a meeting. Without you. The lawyer came to the house 2 nights ago." My stomach sank. I called Gran's lawyer the next day. Voicemail. Called again. Straight to voicemail. Then I called my assistant Gina. Run a search on Eleanor Parker's will. See if it was filed with probate. 10 minutes later, Gina called back. "Emily, nothing's been filed." But here's the weird part. Gran switched lawyers 6 months ago. She's no longer with Donnelly Law. I paused. To whom? To a firm called Braddock and Crane. I blinked. "I know them." She paused. "I thought you might. They're yours." I had merged with Braddock and Crane 3 months ago. Small detail. Our firms had aligned for estate litigation. I had final sign-off on major documents filed within our Savannah branch. That's when the pieces snapped into place. They switched the lawyer, hid the new firm's name, tried to control access. But the one thing they didn't know? The firm was mine. The morning after the funeral, I walked into my own law office, not as a grieving granddaughter, but as a managing partner who had just realized her family had made a terrible miscalculation. The reception area buzzed with quiet respect. My staff knew better than to ask questions, but Gina met me at my office door with a look. "They sent someone," she whispered. "Who?" She handed me a business card. "A junior associate from Braddock and Crane. Said it was urgent. Left this." The card was blank on the back, but the name, David Crane, was one I recognized. Junior partner. New blood. Ambitious. And probably too green to realize who I was just yet. "Set up a meeting with David," I said.
"Here. Today."
Noon. Gina nodded, eyes wide. At 12:03 p.m., David Crane walked into my glass-walled office with a manila folder tucked beneath his arm. His tie was too tight. His confidence too rehearsed. "Miss Parker," he began, before I cut him off. "Emily," I said, smiling. "I believe we share an employer now." His brows furrowed. Sorry." I leaned back in my chair and gestured toward the folder. "Is that Eleanor Parker's will?" He froze. Well, yes. But I was told this meeting was with the family." "I am the family," I said, letting the silence stretch between us. "And I also own 31% of the Braddock and Crane Savannah division, so technically you're presenting firm documents to a senior partner." He blinked. "I didn't realize." "No, I'm sure you didn't," I said softly, watching the color drain from his face. I took the folder gently and opened it. Inside was a freshly signed will, dated 3 months before Gran's death. Legal.
Clean.
And very deliberate. Madison and Chase were included, yes, but only modest inheritances, just enough to satisfy any public suspicion. The bulk of the estate, house, stocks, bonds, trust accounts, was willed to me, along with a handwritten letter from Gran, attached by a staple. "If they hid this from you, then you already know who they are. I never doubted you. Take what's yours and build something better with it." My hands trembled slightly. I closed the folder and looked back at David. "I need you to do something for me," I said calmly. "You'll call Madison and Chase. Tell them there's a formal meeting at my office this Friday at 10 a.m. Make it sound like protocol." "And should I tell them you'll be here?" "No," I said, a smile creeping onto my lips. "Let them be surprised." Friday arrived like a storm with a calm eye. The conference room was set, crisp white folders, water glasses, and just enough cold air conditioning to make nerves spike. Madison walked in first, wearing a Chanel blazer like armor. Chase followed, loafers squeaking slightly. Aunt Lorraine was last, face tight, lips pursed, clutching her oversized handbag like it held secrets. They were expecting something dull, bureaucratic, maybe a lawyer with glasses and a stern voice. Instead, I walked in, black dress, sharp heels, folder in hand, and watched their faces shift in synchronized horror. "What are you doing here?" Madison hissed, standing. I ignored the question and took my seat at the head of the table. "Please," I said, gesturing toward the chairs. "Let's begin." Chase frowned. "We already handled this." The will's been nullified. I cut in. That was an older version. You were aware Gran switched counsel, correct? Madison scoffed.
She was sick.
Confused. I slid the updated will across the table. She wasn't confused. She was deliberate. This is dated 3 months before she passed. It was signed in front of a notary and 2 witnesses, one of them a retired judge. The other? Her priest. Lorraine paled. No, Madison whispered, rifling through the pages.
No.
This can't be right. But it is, I said. And because the will was prepared and filed through Braddock and Crane, and because I happen to co-own that office, your little sideshow? The secret meeting? It didn't work. Chase stood up. You manipulated her. No, I said evenly, my voice low but sure. You did. You tried to erase me. But Gran saw through you, like she always did. Madison slammed the folder shut. You think you're so clever, don't you? No, I said. Gran was. She left a second copy in a fireproof safe in my office. Just in case. The room fell silent. Now, I said, folding my hands. Let's discuss next steps. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Watching their empire of entitlement crumble under the weight of real truth was enough. And I knew something else. They weren't just shocked. They were scared. Because the house they'd already mentally moved into?
Mine.
The stocks they counted on to float their lifestyles?
Mine.
And the law firm they tried to manipulate? Also mine. The meeting ended with stifled curses and furious footsteps. But as I stood alone in the conference room, holding Gran's letter one more time, I felt something bigger than victory. I felt seen. And that was the real inheritance. The fallout didn't take long to begin. By Saturday morning, Madison had already started spinning her version of the story. I got the first taste when I walked into Magnolia Cafe, the cozy breakfast spot Gran and I used to visit every Sunday after church. Heads turned. Whispers followed. I caught sight of Mrs. Collins, a longtime neighbor, giving me a disapproving glance over her coffee mug. And then I heard it. Poor Madison. All that girl did was care for her grandmother. And now look what she gets in return. Madison had gotten ahead of me. She knew Savannah thrived on image, not fact. And while I had the legal paperwork, she had the social manipulation gene down to an art. I didn't flinch. I ordered my black coffee and toast with honey like always, but inside, I was taking mental notes. Because image? I could handle image too. By Monday, I started noticing small changes. My clients began receiving strange emails from anonymous accounts suggesting that I pressured an elderly woman for control of her estate. I traced the emails, burner accounts, masked IPs, but the tone? Pure Madison. Then came Chase. He cornered me outside the office parking lot. Emily, we can't keep doing this, he said, his arms wide in faux peace. This is tearing the family apart. I crossed my arms. The family tore itself apart the moment you locked me out of Gran's funeral proceedings. He exhaled dramatically. She didn't know what she was doing. She was confused when she wrote that will. No, I said. She was clearer than she'd ever been. You just didn't like what she said. She would have wanted us to share. Is that what she wanted when you tried to hide her signature from me? Or when Madison told the firm I was out of state and unreachable? He blinked. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Here's what's going to happen, Chase. I'll let the community believe whatever they want for now. But if either of you slander me again, I'll release every voicemail, text, and document I've archived over the years. What documents? The ones where Madison tried to bribe Ruth into signing over power of attorney. The ones where Lorraine threatened Gran with a memory clinic if she didn't reconsider the will. His face blanched. You kept those, he whispered. I'm a lawyer, Chase, I replied. We don't throw things away. The next confrontation came in the form of Aunt Lorraine. She requested a private meeting at her country club. I knew better, but I went anyway, if only to collect more evidence of their desperation. She wore pearls, smiled too widely, and sipped iced tea like she was playing Southern Belle for a movie role. Emily, she began, her voice syrupy. You know this isn't what Eleanor really wanted. Her signature says otherwise. She was pressured. She was surrounded by you three every day. If anyone was pressured, it was her. Lorraine leaned in. Sweetheart, we all know you had your issues. You always felt like the outsider. This isn't revenge, is it? I stared at her. You tried to silence me. You locked me out of my own grandmother's final moments. And now you're afraid because she left everything to the one person you couldn't control. Her smile cracked. Don't push me, Emily. I stood. You already did. Now watch what happens. But even as the threats escalated, something unexpected happened. Lisa, my cousin's childhood best friend. She'd grown up with Madison, been inseparable from her since grade school. Always a shadow, always obedient. But one day, she showed up at my office. Alone. Nervous. I know things, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. You were always loyal to her. I was scared of her, she said, gripping the edge of the chair. But your gran, she was kind to me. She used to bake me lemon cookies and tell me I didn't have to be like Madison. I didn't understand it then. She paused. But I do now. Lisa gave me text messages, emails, everything she'd been looped into. Plans to drain Gran's bank account under the guise of hospital expenses, manipulation of Ruth's schedule to keep her away from Gran when lawyers were visiting, and even screenshots of a message Madison sent the week before Gran passed. Once she's gone, it's ours. Em's not even on the radar. I thanked Lisa. And I meant it. She wasn't just helping me. She was freeing herself. The final confrontation came at the family home, Gran's house. I had returned to gather a few heirlooms, things with real value. Gran's rosary, her garden diary, the little wooden box she kept under her bed that smelled like lavender and held every photo from my childhood. I didn't expect to find Madison there, but she was in the kitchen, barefoot, a bottle of wine half-finished on the counter. You won, she slurred. I didn't come to fight, I said. Oh no, she laughed bitterly. Come to gloat? Come to stand where she used to stand and remind me you're the good one. I said nothing. She always loved you more, she whispered, even when I tried so hard to make her proud. I finally spoke. She loved us both, but only one of us tried to earn it. Silence. I placed the wooden box gently in my tote bag and turned to leave. You think you're better than us, she said behind me. No, I said softly. I think I'm finally free of you. The house felt different the next time I visited. No longer a battlefield of betrayal, just a quiet, sunlit place that held echoes of kindness, strength, and resilience. I walked through Gran's garden with her old diary in my hand, tracing the neat loops of her handwriting. She wrote about every flower she planted, when it bloomed, how much sunlight it liked, and who complimented it. There were pages about me, too. Emily helped me dig today. She's so careful with the roots. That child loves deeper than she lets on. I sat on the garden bench where we used to sip lemonade and talk about school, boys, and the law. And I finally let myself cry, not because I was sad anymore, but because I'd made it through. I had honored her. But I also understood something important that day. Revenge alone doesn't heal wounds. It may serve justice, but it doesn't rebuild hearts. And Gran didn't raise me to be ruthless. She raised me to be fair. That afternoon, I drafted a letter, one for each of them. To Madison, I wrote, I will not forget what you did, but I also won't carry the poison of resentment into my future. The house is not your inheritance, but peace is something you can still find. If you're ready to stop hurting others to feel whole. To Chase. I hope you learn that silence in the face of wrongdoing is complicity. You were always smart enough to do the right thing. You just chose comfort over courage. I hope that changes. To Aunt Lorraine. I know you think power is everything. But legacy isn't measured by what you take. It's by what you leave behind. Gran left me something real. I hope someday you understand why. And then, for Lisa, I left a handwritten note with a check. You chose truth over fear. That takes strength. This is for your new start. Use it to build something you'll be proud of. She cried when she received it, called me 3 days later, and said she'd finally registered her own event planning business. Gran always said you had good taste, she laughed. Guess she was right. At the law office, I instituted new training, focused on ethics, client advocacy, empathy in estate planning. We rebranded slightly, added a scholarship fund in Gran's name for local girls studying law. On the first day of the program, a young woman named Jada came in with wide eyes and a folder full of dreams. "You're Emily Parker," she whispered. I smiled.
Yes.
"But you can call me Emily. I read about you," she said. "You fought your family. You didn't let them erase you." I nodded. "I fought for what was right. That's different." She sat across from me, excited and hopeful. And for the first time in months, I felt not just victorious, but deeply, wholly at peace. One day, I walked past Madison downtown. She was with an older woman, likely a client, still wearing high heels and that overly polished look. But her eyes didn't meet mine. She kept walking. It was the first time I saw her look small. I didn't stop her, didn't throw a barb, didn't gloat. Because growth means choosing silence when revenge would be easy. Because peace is louder than war when you've finally healed. 6 months later, the house didn't just look different, it felt different. Gran's old rose bushes had bloomed again, bigger and brighter than I remembered. I'd spent weekends restoring her garden, not just for memory's sake, but because it grounded me. Each thorn, each petal, each root buried deep was a reminder. Beauty needs patience, and strength often grows in silence. Inside, the walls had fresh paint, soft creams, warm lilacs. The scent of lemon oil and fresh bread floated through the kitchen again. I'd found Gran's old recipes, and every Sunday now, I baked something from her collection. Cinnamon muffins, lemon tea cake, buttermilk pie. And I didn't eat alone. The house had people again, the right people. Jada, the scholarship student, came over once a week to study. Lisa often joined us, bringing her color-coded notebooks and shy laughter. My neighbor, Mrs. Collins, the same one who had once looked at me with doubt, now brought over peaches from her orchard and apologized. "I didn't know the truth," she had said one evening, "but I see it now." That meant more to me than she knew. Not because I needed the approval, but because I had earned it through quiet dignity. I never expected to fall in love during all this. But life, like Gran used to say, blooms when you're not watching too closely. His name was Daniel. He owned the hardware store where I bought tools during the renovation. He noticed I struggled to lift bags of soil into the trunk of my car. "You're determined, but your back's going to rebel," he had joked the first time we met. He was quiet, steady, respectful. Never asked about the lawsuit or the rumors. Just offered help when needed and sat beside me in silence when I was too tired to talk. We started seeing each other, slowly, gently. One day over coffee, he said, "You remind me of someone who's been through a storm, but came out softer instead of bitter. That's rare." I smiled. I had a good teacher. And I meant Gran. The legal office thrived. Not just financially, but emotionally. We became known for being firm, fair, and fiercely ethical. Clients came to us not just for paperwork, but for compassion. Lisa's business took off. She coordinated her first major wedding in March, and the bride gave a glowing review. "She's calm under pressure," she said. "Makes everyone feel seen." Lisa called me afterward in tears. "I never thought I'd be more than Madison's shadow," she whispered. "But I feel real now, like I'm finally myself." "You were always real," I told her. "You just needed space to bloom." As for Madison, Chase, and Lorraine, they went quiet. Publicly, they still maintained their innocence. But the community stopped listening. Too many truths had surfaced. I heard from a mutual contact that Lorraine moved to Florida. Chase opened the boutique agency in Atlanta. Madison, well, she still worked in PR. Still walked like she ruled the sidewalk. But she never looked me in the eye again. That was her weight to carry, not mine. One afternoon, while cleaning the attic, I found an old envelope taped to the underside of Gran's cedar chest. It was yellowed, sealed with wax, and had my name on it in her handwriting. Inside was a short letter. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, it means you stayed true to yourself, and that's all I ever wanted. I know what they did. I saw it even when they thought I didn't. But I also saw your strength. You were never the loudest, but always the most loyal. I'm proud of you, child. Keep growing.
Keep giving.
Keep choosing kindness, but never let people mistake it for weakness. Build something that lasts. Love without fear. And remember, roses bloom even after harsh winters. Gran. I cried on the attic floor, the letter clutched to my chest. She had known. She had seen me, truly seen me. Even in her silence, she had planted seeds of courage in me. That fall, we held a dedication ceremony for the Eleanor Parker Women in Law Scholarship. Dozens of women came, students, lawyers, activists, mothers. We filled the garden Gran once nurtured with laughter, speeches, and soft piano music. At the end of the event, I stood on the small stage beneath a string of fairy lights. I thought I was alone when this all began, I said. But I've learned that truth brings people together. That legacy isn't just what we leave behind, it's who we lift up while we're still here. Applause. A few tears. A lot of warmth. And then Jada handed me a single rose. Deep red, thorns and all.
For strength, she said.
And because you never let them break you. I placed that rose in Gran's garden that evening, right beside the bench, where I first learned what love, real love, looks like. The sun dipped low, casting a golden glow over the house as wind rustled through the trees. From the kitchen came laughter, Lisa's, Jada's, Daniel's. Warm bread cooled on the windowsill. The garden swayed, alive again. And I stood barefoot on the porch, Gran's letter tucked in my journal, and smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd grown. And growth, I've learned, is the greatest form of justice.